Welcome to Spiritually Rich, a podcast dedicated to helping you call more abundance in every area of your life. And I am so excited for our guest today, Emma Mumford. She is a manifestation expert and has written books and has tons of amazing courses. And I'm so excited to have you on and to have all of your insight and wisdom for our guests that are tuning in.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you for making the time. So I would love to start with just a little bit of background about your story, how you got into what you're doing, anything that you'd like to share with the women in the audience tuning in.
Yeah, so my manifesting journey officially started in 2016, so 10 years ago this month. And it really was kind of, I guess, a catalyst for my spiritual awakening. So at this time in 2016, I was exiting a not so great relationship. I was working as a banking manager here in the UK. And I was just riddled with anxiety and depression every single day. My mental health was probably the worst that it's ever been. I was having suicidal thoughts. I was in debt, and I just couldn't work out in my early 20s how I'd got to that place so young as well. So in 2016, through that kind of breakup, I really found, that I was thinking, I'm going to have to do something here. I'm going to have to find a way to learn how to be happy, to learn how to be happy and fulfilled like I see everybody else doing. Like I had never experienced that for myself. So it was a point in April where I said, God help me. And I don't know what inspired that. I would have said I was atheist at that point. If anything, I didn't necessarily have a belief system in manifestation spirituality at all. I didn't know anything about it at that point. And a day later, I was looking on Google and I was typing in how to turn a negative situation into a positive. And this blonde haired lady came up and I just clicked this video, gave it a watch, and she was talking about manifesting, about law of attraction. Little did I know that was Louise Hay. And I know that she finds a lot of people in their journeys. And from there, I started reading The Secret, watching The Secret, reading Rhonda Byrne's work. And when I was learning about this manifestation, first of all, I was like, wow, this sounds great. Like I can manifest all these things. I can change my life around. Fantastic. But it was also like a remembering. It wasn't like a new skill that I was learning or anything like that. It was a remembering of, of course that's how life works. Of course that's how I've got here. So it was really empowering for me at that point to be able to take control of my life and say, from here on out, I get to choose how I live my life and how I want to feel. So very quickly, like putting these practices into motion. 3 weeks later, I remember waking up and not having anxiety in my stomach, which was unheard of. Like I had it every single day. So to be able to wake up feeling free, having no anxiety was like the best manifestation that I could have had at that point. So I was mainly manifesting in the beginning for my mental health, to feel happy, to learn what self-love was, and very quickly reading these books, diving into self-development, I was finding all of those things. And at the time I was running a very different business to what I do today. I was known as the coupon queen here in the UK. So I was actually running a money saving and couponing business. So very different to what I do now. And I had a YouTube channel and a blog and things. And I just started to naturally talk about manifesting and say like, hey, I've read this fab book. This is what I'm manifesting. And I honestly thought my community were going to think I was nuts, bringing money saving and manifestation together. But they loved it. A lot of them were into it themselves. They were recommending books to me. And it was just great to be able to kind of like start to talk about that a little bit more on my channels. And then about a year in, obviously I was like manifesting incredible things in my business, career. I'd manifested a relationship, a home, like loads of different things, including my health. And I decided, I feel like that business has outgrown me, my money saving business. It had got so huge. It needed a team of people. I was not the right person to carry that business to the next heights. And I feel like I'd evolved as well. I feel like, that will always be a part of me that I'm so proud of. But I feel that I also evolved into, I can help people not just manifest money, but manifest in all areas of their life now. So it was time to put on my spiritual shoes, and I manifested selling that business in 2018. And in 2017, I went full time with this business. And then, the rest is history, as they say.
I love it. What an amazing story. Thank you so, so much for sharing that. So, Let's talk a little bit about your work now and what you're doing, because I'm only a little bit familiar. I know that you've written books and you have different courses and things like that. Um, I guess I'd love to know, like, what inspired you to create the things that you've created in your business now?
Yeah, I would say life. I feel that all of my books have been birthed from experiences and seasons of my own life. I feel like I always joke with authors that you will live your book before you write it. So I feel for me that especially my books are letters or love letters from my soul, it feels like. And it feels like each one represents a journey and a season of life that I was navigating and going through at that point. And I think with work, nature really inspires me as well. I feel like as I've got older and gone along this path, I feel the need to slow down more. I feel the need to like connect in and go deeper with this work and take my community deeper as well. So I often get a lot of inspiration from nature, from my own life, from my own experiences. Obviously, as my brand's grown, I hear more and more stories from clients and my membership. So I love to take inspiration from what's feeling potent for them as well. But yeah, with 10 years, I feel like I've covered a lot of topics in manifesting, but it's lovely to see them grow and evolve as more people find manifesting and, they're intrigued more as well. Because when I started this in 2016, especially here in the UK, in America, it was, pretty much up and coming with The Secret. More people were talking about it. But here in the UK, no one was talking about manifesting. It was so taboo. It was very much like, that's really woo woo. What are you on about? So it's lovely to see now here in 2026 how, I guess, normal it has become. Like, I can literally not go a day without watching a TV show or a movie where someone's saying, I'm manifesting, which is just great because it's so amazing that more people are learning about it.
Absolutely. I actually have been on my spiritual journey for about 20 years. And I remember in the beginning it being like that too.
Yeah.
It was like such a taboo woo woo. It was almost like if you're talking about it, it's like you're like a witch or something.
Yeah.
So it's also been beautiful to see like the awakening that's happening globally. Um, there was something else that I wanted to ask you when you were going into those details. Um, you and I, obviously, we haven't met before. So for everyone watching, this is our first time meeting. But my team found Emma online, and I really wanted to start bringing on more guests that were outside of our area that could bring new insights, new wisdom. Obviously, I teach a lot on manifestation, quantum physics, all of these things, but I love to bring other visionary women onto the show. Like that's kind of what I'm being shown to do, that are also helping to increase the level of consciousness of the planet. And that's why I was drawn to have you on today. So I think a good question would be like, for anybody who's listening, where if they're struggling with their mental health, and they're in that same dark place that you were 10 years ago, like what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. And I think so many people can relate to that as well. Mental health is something that's so, like, thank goodness is spoken about more openly now because, again, in 2016, it was such a taboo topic, which it never ever should have been. So I think my best advice would be obviously advocate for yourself, support yourself, obviously get help if you need that, whether that's therapy, whether that's medication, like all of those things can and do help. And it's so important that you take the route that is most aligned with you. But there's fantastic, books, resources out there that can also support. And I do believe that a lot of my own depression, so I was diagnosed with CPTSD a lot later. So at that point, I didn't know that I had undiagnosed trauma. I didn't know that I had childhood abuse. I knew none of that. So for me, even just finding the law of attraction, reading these books on self love, like I saw huge shifts and changes, of course, even with that underneath. And then in 2020, like for a lot of us, the inner work started to come up in, thick and loud. And it was more inner child work. It was going into, more of the psyche, going inwards, learning about limiting beliefs and fears, identities, trauma work. So it was definitely like a gradual unfolding for me. It definitely wasn't like I knew everything that happened to me from day one. Definitely not. It's been absolutely a 10-year journey, and I'm sure it will continue to be throughout my whole entire life, like it is for all of us. It's always an unlearning, always a relearning of those patterns and, things that we've picked up in our childhood. So I would just say, support yourself in the best way you can, whether that's a simple gratitude practice in the morning. Gratitude for me has been such a game changer in just having a positive mindset, setting me up for the day. And as we know, gratitude is the best attitude. So it allows you to start your day in a positive vibration and carry that energy throughout your day. So I think when you're in the pits of your mental health, it's so, so difficult to see a way out, to see a way forward. And I think even just having like small moments of glimmers each day, tuning into gratitude each day, just little things you can do for yourself to spark joy, to bring joy, whether that's connecting to your inner child, whether that's putting on a high vibration playlist. Obviously it's important to, do the inner work and the deeper work, of course, like I did. But I think it's also important to realize that inner work doesn't have to be this big, serious, dark cloud. It can be fun too. There's ways to also transmute it through fun, through pleasure, through play. So I think it's, important to support yourself, but also make sure that, you're supporting your psyche as well and your mindset with those tools that can really help to shift you in quicker ways.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So powerful. And for everyone who's listening, gratitude, like she spoke of, is on the same vibrational frequency as abundance. And the more obviously you focus on even the little things that are going right or going well in your life, that allows that energy to expand. So more things that are going right, going well, can actually meet you and show up. So that's such an important piece. I love that. And all of the simple things, like you said, to start to shift the energy, to give you kind of that motivation to go a little bit deeper. And then the right resources and the right, like I'm sure with you, it's like the right books found you. Louise Hay found you. And then that opened the next door and the next door, right? And there's just so many layers. But I love the idea too of like, not making it like this big heavy thing. Like healing doesn't need to be this big huge heavy cloud, like you said. Like of course there's parts of it that are, there's a little bit of heavy lifting because we want to purge and get rid of and heal from these things, but it doesn't need to be this scary monster that we run from, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So what else do you think, like like I said, my audience is primarily women. Of course, some men tune in as well. What else do you think would be valuable for them to know about you or your work or where you're at in your life or anything like that?
Well, I suppose it depends what they're wanting to manifest. So I always think that a great way to introduce manifesting is to talk about alignment and to talk about the process that I teach in my work, my 5 steps to manifesting. So I think a lot of the time I found, especially, I don't know if you're the same, Nicole, with my community, that a lot of the time people, they know about limiting beliefs, they know about fears, they kind of heard that a lot over the years in the sphere, but it's more about how can we take that deeper now? And I think there's so many, I would say, outdated practices a lot of the time that do work. They all worked for us, absolutely. But I think there used to be a nuance of really focusing on tasks and exercises and practices. Like the more you do, like if you're not manifesting your desire, like you need to do more. And I found that, especially in my own journey, that was okay getting some results, but I was still feeling attached. I was still feeling resistance. I was still feeling a lot of attachment to my desires and still not seeing the fruits of my labor. And it really kind of came through to me in my alignment work of, it's got nothing to do with practices. It's got nothing to do with how many times I write my desire down or how many times I sit in meditation. It's all about my identity. It's all about who I am, because as they say, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. So that alignment piece for me unlocked so much, because I used to sit massively in my divine masculine energy. That was my natural comfort point. So for me, action and pushing and doing was just like, yeah, of course, I'm manifesting. But that's not really the true art of manifesting. That's not the real, true, pure essence. It also involves that divine feminine energy. It involves receiving. It involves magnetism. And I don't think I really, truly knew what inner magnetism or like being the magnet meant until I did that work myself to unlearn, obviously, and learn how to receive, but also then realize that it's energy. Manifesting actually isn't hard. It's not this big hurdle everybody has to get over and do loads of tasks, loads of exercises, do more meditations. It's actually all about energy. And you can align and magnetize something to you like that when you align the vibration, when you align the energy. So for me, my message that I share a lot in my work is actually do less. Like a lot of the time we're doing too much and we're focusing, and we're probably using those tools as a way to control, as a way to stay attached as well, because it feels like we're in control. If we're doing an exercise, we're doing something, like it signals to our mind, well, I'm doing something, so therefore, I'm in control. But it's co-creation. Manifestation is a co-creation process. You go 50% of the way and the universe meets you 50% of the way. So if we are in that mode of constantly asking, constantly doing, like we're never settling into that energy of receiving, of ultimately becoming that magnet. So I teach in my book, Aligned Abundance, the alignment protocol of like, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling out of alignment, then this is the best way to identify where you are in your journey. Are you stuck in ask? Are you stuck in believe? Are you stuck in trust? Are you stuck in let go? Or maybe you're even stuck in receiving. So everybody listening is going to be in a different part of their journey, in a different stage, and resonate with each point differently. But receiving tends to be the thing that comes up time and time again in my communities, because obviously I'm heavily female in my communities as well. And trust, receiving, and that alignment piece, I would say if you can nail that, then you're going to be a pro at manifesting.
Right. So true. Yeah, I always talk about that too, because in order to attract more, you have to actually be able to receive and have the capacity to hold whatever it is that you're calling in. And what I found, and I'm interested with your work too, is that our level and ability to receive is like directly tied to our level of self-worth and like deservability. Like the more deserving we feel, the more comfortable we are to receive. Have you found that with your work as well?
Absolutely. And it is a direct correlation to your ability to receive abundance. So before, I was receiving abundance, like I was manifesting, but it always felt capped. It always felt like there was a ceiling. It always felt like it was good, but not that mind blowing abundance that you hear about. And then, learning these techniques of alignment, of regulating the nervous system and becoming that magnet really allowed me to manifest in a whole different way, which absolutely allows you to receive. So, if you look at your relationship with receiving, if you feel like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely one of these people, how do you feel when you receive compliments? How do you feel when you receive gifts, money, whatever it is, hugs, love? Look at your relationship, because I used to hate receiving gifts, hate it. It was so awkward. I loved giving to people, but receiving presents and unwrapping them in front of people was just like, oh, I hate it. But I had to become comfortable with that. I had to look at what was the block, what was stopping me from fully receiving from my loved ones, because I was taking so much joy from them in giving to me in that moment. So definitely the more you can allow yourself to receive, your level of abundance and magnetism will skyrocket.
Yeah, so beautiful. I love that. I love what you're doing, and it resonates so much, obviously, with my work and everything that I teach. So I super love seeing other women out there holding the torch, shining the path. Um, I'm trying to think of other things that I think that our community would love to know about. So you live in the UK. What is life like over there? Because most of my audience is here, like in the States or Europe, Dubai, Greece, but I don't think I have a lot of people in UK. What's life like there?
Well, like with anywhere in the world, it's interesting right now for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, I can't complain. It's beautiful countryside, beautiful nature, which I adore. And yeah, it's lovely to see that manifesting, especially here in the UK, but all over the world as well, is, getting more reach. People are speaking about it more and finding, your work and my work and lovely books out there.
love that. I love that. What about you, like with where you're at in your life and your business? What's kind of what kind of vision do you have for the future of what you're wanting to create? Is there something specific, or is it something more that you're kind of just like one, like I always, when I try to go too far into the future with my visions, I have to reel myself back and like really try to stay more present and just look for the next, I always say like the next stone on the path that's most aligned for the highest and best good. But just curious with like you and your work, is there anything that you feel called to create or work on in the future?
Yeah, well, I think as a creative, we always feel called to create something. I think that never goes. But yeah, for me, I adore writing books. I feel like that is absolutely my purpose, my calling. So I feel like there's always a book brewing and there's always inspiration that comes through with that as I enter into new seasons, new decades of my life. But it's interesting because I'm hitting 10 years in this business this year. And it's the longest that I've ever run a business. And I always have that fear sometimes of, am I going to run out of ideas? Like, am I going to run out? And obviously we never do, because when you're tapped into that inspiration, when it's your purpose, when it's, your dharma, like you could talk for hours and hours and hours about it, as I joke. So you never do. But I think at this pivotal point, I feel like everybody has this at their 10-year mark where they're like pivoting into, okay, what does the next decade look like? What does it look like moving forward? So for me, it's always going to be manifestation. I live and breathe it. So for me, that feels so strong and absolutely will continue. But I feel moving forwards, it's definitely taking the work deeper, like receiving. I feel like I want to dive into so much more with my books, with my communities. I feel that that's been such a pivotal lesson for me. And I feel like so many people still to this day struggle to truly receive and understand their worth, like you said, and really understand how important receiving and trust and magnetism is in the process. So I think I definitely want to dive into that work a lot more, and potentially write a book on it. We'll see. But yeah, I'm at 9 years at my podcast as well. And it's lovely to have interviewed so many incredible people, to, have like almost like a podcast diary of my life over the last 9 years as well. So I'm excited to see what unfolds. But I feel like when I try and, like you, plan too much in advance, and I used to have like 5 year plans and all this stuff right at the beginning, but now I think especially with last year when we were in a year 9 as well collectively, I feel like the universe was like, right, year 1 this year, you're not having a plan, you're just going in, you're going to see what unfolds. And yeah, I think there's so much beauty in that as well. As a Virgo, it is in my nature to naturally have a plan, have a schedule, control. So I think it's actually been really refreshing for me this year to not have like this solid set business plan, this solid goal, and actually just feel into the energy of the year and actually let myself create from like this reset point, from this new beginning, instead of like, kind of again, like getting into habit of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, like I always do. So I think it's been really challenging for me to expand in new ways through actually trying new things. And instead of having this like having to know it all by January and have it all figured out, be like, do you know what? I'm going to let the universe positively surprise me this year and guide me to what our communities need to know, and, what wants to channel through.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. Um, I'm so in alignment with that because I feel like when you're in that frequency and energy, you keep tapping into more expansive energy. And when there's too much of a plan, it actually kind of like caps you a little bit in terms of
Mm.
like how fast things can come through. And then also just like what we're here to create or to do. And, something when you were talking that I loved, that I think is so important for people to understand, is wherever you're at in your life or your business, like really trying to follow what feels deeply satisfying and brings you the most amount of joy. Like when you talked about writing your books, like your whole energy is just like it, you can tell that that's deeply satisfying for you. That brings you so much joy. And because of that, right? Like the impact and ripple effect that it creates is just, it's going to be so powerful. Versus I feel like when we are not in alignment and more in ego, or more like in that chasing energy, it's
Mm.
like, okay, I need to write the book and do the thing and create this and create that because I want to catch up and keep up with the Joneses, or keep up with this creator or this influencer or this or that. And again, like that really blocks your ability to manifest quickly, but also to manifest like what's most in alignment for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes away so much magic from your own path, your own journey, your own higher self, and what your higher self wants to channel into your life or manifest for you when
Right.
you're, thinking, oh, well, if so and so is manifesting that, I should be focusing on that. And, we're human. We fall into comparison. We fall into those places. Like, we're human. We're meant to experience all those emotions. But I think it's so important, like you said, to like turn down the noise, tune into what feels like true for you and in alignment, because that's never going to do you wrong. Your intuition, your inner compass is always going to guide you to exactly where you're meant to be.
Yes, yes. And I think that that is probably the message that I want everyone to hear the most from this is really following your own inner compass, following what lights you up, following what brings you the deepest level of satisfaction and joy. Because if you learn to do that, you're always going to be guided to your highest timeline and your highest path. No matter what your head is trying to say, right? Because the old programs, paradigms, belief systems might be trying to tell you a different story. But like when you really truly follow, like what brings you the deepest level of satisfaction and joy, you're going to manifest miracles, like so much abundance. Okay, I have another question for you because I also have a lot of female founders and entrepreneurs in my community as well. That's really the women that I like to work with the most are visionary women that are really looking to expand their lives, their businesses, and create quantum leaps. So you're like at the 10-year mark with your business. What what kind of advice would you give other female founders or entrepreneurs that are building their brand or building their business, in terms of, I think, delegating, holding the pressure of building a brand, building a business, scaling a business. What does that look like for you? And like, what kind of tools do you use, or any advice that you have for running and growing and scaling a brand and a business?
Yeah. So your nervous system is going to be what is the navigation tool for your business. And I wish I'd known this earlier on. I wish I knew this years ago, because so many times I was in burnout, deep, deep burnout of trying to wear all the hats, trying to do all the things, saying yes to everything because I didn't want to miss a good opportunity, or I felt like, oh, that's such a good opportunity. I should do it. It might help, more people find my work. And it's natural to want to do those things. Of course, like we have to do those things in business, put ourselves out there. But I think learning that I was neurodivergent as well, like answered so many questions for me on why I felt so burnt out a lot of the time, why I couldn't pace myself like a lot of my peers, why I felt exhausted after doing events. And I was like, what is wrong? Like, is my energy out of alignment? I was doing energy protection, all these things, but I had to be truly, truly honest with myself of my energy is just not going to perform at the level of neurotypical people. And that is okay. That is my superpower. And that doesn't need to be a negative. I just have to restructure my business to be able to support me, to be able to hold my energy so that I can hold the space for my clients and my community so much better as well. So I think that was a real big wake up call for me in terms of saying no more than I say yes now, which is difficult. The people pleaser in me is still like, oh, but what if I want to do that or I want to do this? But, I have to be strict with myself of my energy spend, of what I'm committing to, what I can actually physically do in a week, in a day, in a month. And I think when you structure, and I structure my year in January, I know I said I didn't have a plan for this year, but I do plan out time off. And one thing that I really, really do swear by is I book all of my time off at the beginning of the year, because I know me, I will overcommit. And if I don't book weeks off, if I don't book holidays, if I don't book time for my nervous system to actually rest and have, rest between launches, between different things, I will burn out. So for me, before I schedule launches and actually know what the products are, I actually put in weeks of rest or days of rest, whatever I need, to be able to make sure rest is actually my strategy. So it sounds backwards, but rest is actually my strategy, because when my nervous system is feeling regulated and relaxed, my, cup is full, I am able to do so much more. I'm able to be so much more focused, so much more productive, able to, actually give my all to my work. So everybody's going to be different listening to this, but I think, the biggest lessons are I actually don't have to do it all. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to hire a team. Start out where you are, just with one person. Doesn't have to be a whole team of 10 people, just one person to help and, to delegate to. Like, it really helps to lighten the load and to be able to free up your time for creativity and creation rather than the kind of everyday mundane things, which, yeah, we might like doing, but is it filling your energy like reserves, or is it depleting it in not a way that you can sustain? So sustainability is so, so key with this. Like, if you want to be here for decades and years to come, like, you've got to pace yourself. And, we're in an ever changing sphere on social media, in business, in economies. Like, I feel like everything's changing every few months at the moment, which, keeps you on your toes. You've got to adapt as a business owner, of course. But the more that you can regulate your nervous system, the more you're going to be able to adapt during these times, navigate all the highs and lows of business. And again, you're going to be that magnet because you're centering yourself, you're focusing on your energy. And that is the most important thing, because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't hold the space for your clients, for the people in your business, and deliver a fantastic service if you're burnt out, if you're having like emotional breakdowns all the time because you're so tired and you can't hold or handle everything. So it is so easy to fall into these places. I've been there many times myself. My health has absolutely taken a knock every single time I haven't prioritized these things. But for me, having that neurodivergent piece just really answered why I wasn't able to do as much as my peers, why I wasn't able to just turn up and do like 6 events back to back and, feel absolutely fine afterwards. So I think it's finding like where your energy sweet spot is so that you're feeling empowered, you're feeling energized every time you're working. You're not feeling like, oh, it's work. It's like, wow, I get to do this every day. Amazing. Like, I'm full of energy. So when you can find that and when you make rest your strategy, you're going to come from such a different energy where you can hold more, you can receive more, you can sustain more.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I would say probably 80%, if not more, of my community are probably empaths. So very sensitive energetically. And so I'm always preaching, like it's not even an option for people that are highly sensitive to not do like the most self-care. Like a normal person, I think, can do like some self-care and still sustain, whereas highly sensitive people need so much more rest, regulation, self-care, because you're just taking on more than you realize energetically, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that you spoke about that, because um, I think that is like the most important piece. That and like following your joy, following the things that are deeply satisfying, um, I think is everything with building a brand and a business that you love and that you're not burnt out by. And that's happened to me too. Like anytime that I stop focusing on just like my mission, stop focusing on what really brings me joy and satisfaction, and get more into the weeds of like scaling or growing, I always feel out of alignment and burnout. I'm like, this is the opposite of what I'm teaching. And I have to rein myself back and get back to a place where like, wait, what is the most meaningful? What feels the most satisfying? Am I setting my days up and my business up to where like I'm really enjoying what I'm doing? Or am I getting back on the hamster wheel of like, let's see how fast we can do this and do that and grow this? So I think that
Yeah.
that's such an important piece too. Thank you for touching on that.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's always that classic story of everybody wants to be an overnight success, but is
Mm-hmm.
that actually sustainable to your nervous system, to your
Totally.
finances? Like, that's not the goal. Like, the goal is sustainability. The goal is steady, stable growth that lasts and that feels regulating, that feels expansive. So
Mm-hmm.
often when we see people having their overnight success, it's 10 years in the making. It's not just like they rocked up day one and they had a 6-figure business and all of these amazing things. It has taken probably years of preparation for that person, but it just looks effortless because they've done all that work prior.
Yes, that's such a powerful point too. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because I know we're human, like we talked about, and it is hard not to compare as much as we train ourselves not to. And you're so right. It's that overnight success is taking years and years of behind the scenes of tons of work, tons of trial and error, tons of ups and downs, and all over the place. I was actually at a workshop in Scottsdale last week, and one of the women there, she not only has been working on her business for a long time, but she just kind of did catapult into like a whole other trajectory in revenue and clients. But now her system is breaking because she doesn't have the capacity to handle it. And her nervous system was so fried and rocked. And she was just honestly a mess because she's putting out fires, So
Yeah.
I love what you said about like the sustainability. That's definitely where I'm at in my business. I'm like, I would rather grow slower and have it feel really good and be able to show up for the people in my community and in my life in a way that feels really empowering and expansive than ask for like, okay, like I want to do this crazy amount of whatever it is. Let's just say it's money related and it's a revenue goal. You be careful what you wish for, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because
Yeah.
it sounds like, oh yeah, that'd be so great to make whatever 6 figures in a month, but what at what cost, right? So I love the idea of just 1% better, continue like the compound effect, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell my clients too, you have to make peace with your own process and your own journey. Like we all have our own timeline and all of the different experiences and lessons and things that we need to learn for our highest path. But if we are getting frustrated with how long something's taken, we're not in alignment, right? We're not making peace with our own process, with our own timing, divine timing. So I think that's such an important piece too. And it allows you to like release and surrender and let go, which puts you back into alignment, right?
Yeah. And I think as well, there's been so many examples in my life where I was like, why didn't it come sooner? Like, why did I have to wait all this time? And, in hindsight, which is a beautiful thing, you can always look back and think, oh my gosh, if I'd received that any sooner, I would not have been in the right place, the right mindset. It would have not been the best thing ever. And I probably wouldn't have been able to sustain it. So it always makes sense when you look back. But when you're in the thick of it, when you're in the messy middle, it feels like, but why can't I have that now? Why does everybody have that? But I always bring it back to the law of oneness. People often feel that when people manifest their desires, it's like, oh, so and so has manifested that, or God, there's just loads of people having children or getting married around me, or like getting book deals or whatever it is, starting a podcast. Like, why can't I do that? But I always say, if you're seeing it around you, it's because you're a vibrational match. The law of oneness is what is possible for one is possible for all. So if you were seeing every single person around you manifest your dreams, get excited. You are a vibrational match. You wouldn't be seeing it if you weren't a vibrational match. So I say, like, reframe it into, wow, okay, everybody around me is doing these things. Great, the energy's there, it's coming. So when you can reframe that as an opportunity to celebrate people even more, celebrate their success, celebrate these wins, it gets you into that energy as well.
I love that. So, so powerful, so true. I love it. 100%. Um, I absolutely love the work that you're doing, and I'm so honored for you to be here today and to share your wisdom with all of these amazing people tuning in. I feel like we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it. I think we've covered some great topics.
Yeah, we have. We've covered so much. And for everybody listening, thank you for being here. And we're just sending you so much love and light. And we'll drop Emma's website in the bottom of wherever you're seeing this. And yeah, Emma, thank you so much for taking time. I really, really appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Have a good one.